Alright, hi everybody, it's Aaron here from VitalPoint AI, and today I'm going to introduce you to near personas, and we're going to go through a tutorial to show how to integrate personas into your app. So I think this is a game changer in terms of being able to maintain control of your data and have you display what you want to display and give the image of the person you want to be in certain apps. By creating digital identities, and I hope you like it. So I'm gonna do this a little bit differently today and try and do a bit of a live coding thing here. So we're gonna take it step by step, right from creating personas. Then we're gonna download an example app using the Guestbook example, and then we're gonna persona enable that app so that it's displaying a data, these digital identity data. Alright, so bear with me. And I'm going to get rid of myself because you don't need to watch me for this entire time. Alright, cool. So this is nearpersonas.com, and first thing we're going to do is sign in here. And what we're doing here is sign in with an account, and then within that account we're going to create several different personas, and those will be different digital identities that we'll use in the Guestbook app. So I'll just log in as player 3. And in a short amount of time it'll be logged in here. What's this doing in the background? It's creating a link between the near persona, the account, and a contract, a did registry contract on near, which lets the account be associated with a ceramic 3 ID or decentralized identity. What we're doing here is we're going to create a couple personas. First one, we'll say Frank Gamblin. Give him that. Let's call him Frank. So we'll need to transfer a near here. Allow the transfer. So this is creating a new near account. It's just using the regular wallet thingamajigger. So it's been created. Claim it. You have to reveal this. Obviously, you won't want to show everybody what your code or your seed phrase is. I'm going to want that later, so I'm just going to open up a notepad. And what it's doing now, so it's claiming the persona, and this is where it's setting up that link in the background between the near account and the ceramic ID. So that's being stored in the registry so that anytime any app needs to find out information about this account, they'll query the did registry, get the decentralized identifier, and then be able to query the ceramic network for the data that's attached to it. So I'll head back over to personas. And from here, we'll be able to create a persona for this person, Frank Gamblin. So Frank is a cool dude. structure. The pictures here are being uploaded to IPFS. Let's pick one here. So it's being stored on IPFS. So nothing in a centralized server anywhere. Submit the details. And with that, our first persona has been created. Take a second to update, and here we go. Create another one. Walter Peabody. Why not? Walter. We just go through the same process here again. Of course, all these personas that we create belong to the account that we're logged in with, and that account needs to have some near in order to create these other accounts. What that does ultimately is let you log in with a master persona and then manage the data that's associated with any other digital identity you create that belongs to that account. So in the future, as we'll see, you're able to change any of the information related to a persona, and it'll propagate across every app that's using that persona. So in other words, you maintain total control of your data. It's not stored in these other apps, and you're able to change and remove it at any time. Now if there's an error here, potentially the RPC server or something timed out from near. It happens occasionally on testnet. Let's try it again. And we need that one as well. We're going to do some testing here on testnet for a few more days, and then eventually move all this stuff over to mainnet. So it should be available for your near accounts in the near future. And we're good to go again. Walter some information. We're not going to deal with the bio stuff here, but obviously we're going to extend that much more in the future for more different fields, and also give people the ability to add their own custom field as well. And we'll give him a picture too. And voila, we got two personas ready to go. So we'll use these in our app later on, and they belong to player 3. So just to give you an idea of what we're going to do, Near has some example apps, and we're going to play with the Guestbook example here. What it will, if you load it all up and make it work, The original Guestbook looks something like this. So you'll get this, you can sign a message, and then it'll display basically your account and the message down here. Afterwards, after we've personas enabled the Guestbook example here, you'll have avatars, you'll have custom names for each of your accounts, and of course you could extend that further depending on what you wanted to do. So that's kind of what we're aiming to do. So from here, we'll fire up a Visual Studio Code window, and you can use whatever IDE you like, but I like Visual Studio, and what we'll do is open up the terminal. First thing we need to do is clone the Guestbook code. So we head over here, oops, not there, to the example, head on in, browse it on GitHub, and we'll grab the code link. Should have it. Head back over to Visual Studio Code, and we're going to move to my projects directory, and we're going to clone it into a new directory called Guestbook Avatar. As soon as that is done, just take a moment, go into it, and we'll open up that window there, which means we can close that one. All right, don't need the welcome screen anymore, and in a moment that'll populate. Now, first thing that we need to do is configure some things for Ceramic IDX to work. Now, Ceramic is Ceramic Network, which is, they make a open identity protocol, which is what we're using to integrate with Near here to make all this magic happen. So ideally, the step I'm about to go through here is going to disappear in the future, but there's some dependencies that Ceramic currently requires to make everything run smoothly. So we're going to move over to the package.json file here. You can change this if you like to some other information, but we'll just leave it. But what we do need to do is move down to resolutions here, and after the one that we have here, add SIDS 1.1.6. Alright, so from there, come down here and we have to yarn. This is going to install all the dependencies required to make the Guestbook, the base Guestbook example run. So that's going to take a couple of minutes here. Be back in just a second. Alright, lucky for you, I figured out how to use the pause recording buttons. You didn't have to sit there and wait for all that to go through. But once you've done the yarn add and it's successfully done, then we need to install a couple of other dependencies. So we'll do yarn add at ceramic network. last one just gives us some styling stuff. Again, we'll install those. I'll be back when that's done. Alright, now that those are installed, you do want to do one more yarn at the end of all that, just to make the resolutions go through again, in case there's anything in those last ones that we just installed. That shouldn't take as long. Voila, perfect. Now we're also going to make a couple other changes in the package file here. First one being in the scripts here. So we're going to change the deploy line to remove the GitHub pages piece here. It just requires more configuration that we don't really need. So we're just going to do that. And then we're going down here to the browsers list. Just to make sure we are using decent up-to-date browsers. We're going to get rid of all this there. Like so. We just want the last one from version. You can make it the last two if you want. That works too. Just clean this up a little bit. And we got one too many brackets. Good to go. Alright, so that should be all the setup that we need to do to make ceramic work and all that sort of thing. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to just finish up some setup and then test it out to make sure we're in a good spot there. So if you don't have near CLI already installed globally, you'll need to do that. npm install --save near -CLI-G because we need to create an account that we will deploy the Guestbook contract to. So we're going to do that here. Create account GB avatar. You can call this whatever you want, but it should be a sub account of something you already own. And if you need to make something, then you need to head over to the Near wallet and make that. Just specify your master account. And you give it an initial balance. If you want, it'll have a default if you'd rather not. So we'll do that. That will create an account. If I hit enter, yep, there we go. And I'll save the keys to your machine. Alright, so now we have that account, network default, good to go. That'll be important in a second. But now we will head up to source, config. So we need to specify the name of the contract that it should be looking for. So we can change this line right up here at the top. GB avatar. .testnet, like so. And now we're just going to do a yarn start to make sure everything is working before we move on. So what's happening here, it's running through all the deploy scripts here, but it's going to build the contract, which is up here in the assembly folder. It's the Guestbook contract. It's going to compile it to WASM, and then it's going to deploy that WASM to the contract contract account that we just created, which we created as gbavatar.vital.ai.testnet. That will take a brief moment. When it is done. what it's doing at this part here, it's building the distribution files, I guess, and they get stored in this dist folder here. And if you were deploying this somewhere, those are the files that you push up to the hosting service, or let GitHub or whatnot do in your continuous deployment setup. So you can see all the files have been built. It's now deploying the contract to the contract account. Done deploying. And it's now running the server at that location. I already had something running on port 1234, otherwise it would have opened up there. So in just a moment we'll go and check. Alright, so it's built, so we're just going to head back to a browser here, open up a new tab, and see if we have a guestbook running. And we do. So this is what you should see. Cool. So now that that is up and going, what we're going to do is log into it with one of the accounts that we created with Near Personas. So we'll log in. And we're going to need to set up the account or import the account. So we'll do frankgamblin.testnet. So what I want to do here is create a new account, because I have not imported this into my wallet yet. So import existing account, recover account, find my account, recovered. Now I can log in as frankgamblin.testnet. Guestbook, and of course I could write a message, sign it, and sign the guestbook as Frank Gamblin. And that's what the default Near Guestbook app looks like. So we're going to make that look much better and add a little bit of personality to it. So next step, remember I mentioned before we're creating a link between the Near account and the ceramic DID. So what we need to do is hook up the did registry contract. So for testnet, the did registry contact is dids.vitalpointai.testnet. So what we need to do is head over to the index.js file here, and we need to hook up this to the contract. So this contract is hooked up to the guestbook contract, and that's what's happening here, where it has access to its view methods for get messages and change messages to add a message. So what we need to do is add another contract in here. I'll do it like so. Actually, what I'm going to do is copy and paste. Give me 2 seconds. Next. Rather than you watch me type in it, you can probably speed things up a little bit here by doing this. Alright, so we call the did contract. It creates a new contract with a connection to the account that's logged in to that contract. So that's dids.vitalpointai.testnet, and then it gives it access to view methods. These ones which are in the did registry, and each of these does a specific thing. Specifically, getDid gets the link between did contract and or from Near account to the ceramic ID, and then the rest are things that we need to pull in to get the schemas that set up what data is there. All right, so now that we have it, we need to return it to make it available throughout the app, and then we need to pass it into the app component as a prop. There we go. Now it should be available to the app. All right. And my linter here is causing me some issues, so I'm just going to go in here and just get rid of the linting on these files. Cool. So we've now hooked up the did registry contract. So now we need to bring in the persona data. To do that, we need to head to the app file. And first thing we need to do is bring in a couple of imports. Grab those. So this is the ceramic client, comes from that ceramic thing that we just going to stop this for a second. Alright. That we installed earlier, and then IDX, which is the identity protocol stuff that we're going to use as well. Alright, so in addition to that, we also want to bring in two things from Material UI for some styling later on. One being avatar and second being grid. Alright, from there we need to check in my notes here. So we need to bring the did contract in as from the app. So if you recall, we added it on the app thing, so we actually need to bring it into this file, the did contract, like so. Then we need to set up a state variable to house our avatar when we bring it in. Like so. And then we're going to move down to this use effect method. And this is where we're actually bringing in the data. So I'm just going to copy and paste a function that's going to do that for us. And at some point I'll probably put this into an npm module so that, or npm package, so it's much easier to integrate. But for now, I'm just going to paste that in and quickly go through it. So first thing we do is we check the did contract to see if the did exists for the current account using the has did function. If it does exist, then we actually get it, bring it back, and then we get all the definitions from the contract. And these are ceramic definitions which define how the data is stored on the ceramic network. We're going to then change or pull from those definitions and create the profile alias, which is basically just a word profile that links to the definition ID on the network. So anyways, this is just required in order to find the right definition. From there, we create the connection to the ceramic network. This is their test net. So just keep in mind that any personas you create right now, they're not going to persist until we are able to switch over to the ceramic mainnet. And that'll come at the same time that we do the near personas onto the mainnet. And then we create the IDX using the client and the alias that we got earlier. And then this right here, result, is where we actually pull in the profile data that was stored for that decentralized identifier, so for this account. And if there's a result, and we then store the avatar that's in there into the state variable that we created earlier, and now it's available for us to use in the app. And then this just calls it. Cool. So not too hard. Like I said, that's just a standard function that's always going to be there to pull things in. So from there, once the app loads, it's going to bring it in. So now all we need to do is display the data. So we've already added before, like I mentioned, avatar and grid to give us some styling for it. So now what we're going to do is we're going to cruise on down, look for the logout button, this right here, and we're going to change that so that we put the avatar next to the logout button. That up a little. So we create a grid container. It's just a container, so it opens and it closes. Inside that we put the avatar. So this little bit of styling just creates a circle around whatever image is there, and we pass in this avatar here variable is the state variable, which is a link to the image on IPFS. So it pulls that in, and then it just gives it a little bit of styling to put a bit of a space between that and the logout button. Cool. So now if we were to hit yarn start again, what you're going to see, I'm not going to do it because I have it running on 1, 2, 3, 4. So that created this part up here. We got the avatar with the logout button next to it. Alright, so moving right along. Now we want to get into this part down here, so where we put each avatar next to a name and the account for every message that gets put on there. So this requires a little bit more React work, and then we need to create a new component, message card for each one of those messages. But before we leave app here, we need to scroll on down to messages here and pass the did contract to that component so it's available. Alright, and from there open up the components folder and move to the messages piece here. And what this is doing, it's got all the messages in this variable here. First thing we do is bring did contract into here, and then what it's doing, it's mapping, we're going through each message that's there, and it's outputting the sender and the text here. So instead of doing this, what we're going to do is create another component called message card, and it'll display a message card for each one, which has the information on it. And that allows us to bring in the data and display it the way we want to display it. So to do that, first off we need to create that new component. So just over here, new file, message card.jsx, and then we're going to be importing it. So, and then we're going to change the return function to this. So we just basically inserted this message card, we're passing it the key, which is which is basically just an index, and every time we have something like this in React, you need to pass a key so that it knows it's a unique card. That should be a unique value. Pass in a did contract, who message sender, so who is which account signed the message, the text of the message, and then whether it was a premium message or not. So that's all we need to do here. And now we need to build the actual message component, message card component itself. So we'll do this in a couple parts, 4 parts to be exact, starting with the imports. So there's nothing new here whatsoever. Let's paste that in. It's going to look like much of the stuff we did in app. Next we'll bring in this, you set up the state variables and open up the props, or deconstruct the props. So we open up the function message card props, set up our state variables, and this time we want both avatar and name, and then we bring in the props that we passed in from messages. So these here correspond to these here. Cool. And now, like we did in app earlier, we just need to bring in the data from the ceramic network, and we'll do that with the use effect function again. And again, nothing changed here, just another use effect, and this just means it's loaded when this component gets loaded. Looks for the did, finds the alias, sets up the client, IDX for that client, and then gets the result. The only difference this time is we've uncommented result.name so that we can have both the avatar and name available. And then finally, we set up the return function like so, which is basically just how we want to display it. So again, it's just a grid container. Inside we have 1, 2, 3 grid items. The first grid item is whether or not it's a premium message, and this XS means it's taking up 12 columns across the screen. You can look up Material UI and look at their grid documentation to get an idea of how that works. In the second grid item, or second row, we have the avatar, and next to it, it's only taking up 1 column, so that next to it in the other 11 is the name of the sender. And here's where we put in the name that was stored in the persona, and then the account name, and then finally the text of the text of the message. And that is it. The guestbook has now been persona enabled. So if you were to hit the orange start, you're going to end up with this. Obviously you won't have the messages here or whatnot, but you can now log in as you're already going to be logged in as your persona dude there, but you can sign it, and here we go like that. So actually what I'll do, log out, I'll log in as our Frank Gamblin dude. Hopefully this should work. Alright, so as you see, it's about his avatar, etc., etc. Sign the guest book. Frank is here. Voila. Now, the interesting thing about this is now you can go back to near personas if you want, and maybe you don't like your persona anymore across every app that has personas enabled. And all you need to do is come back in here. For some reason it's not loading. Oops. Of course, as soon as I change, taking a second to load up the data back up. So we'll just change the avatar. here, and within a few moments it should update the avatars. Ceramic has this thing, it's called doc sync, and so if something changes in the underlying data, it should get pushed out depending on how long it takes. I hadn't tried this before, so let's just see if it's going to work. Might take a refresh, although I don't think that is the intent of it, so I might not have something configured correct. Let's give it a couple more seconds. Alright, well, I'll hit refresh. So there is a way that it'll automatically do the refresh without having to reload the page. I just obviously haven't got something set up correctly, or I just didn't wait long enough. But there is a doc sync that enables Ceramic to update all that stuff on its own. So congratulations, you've now got a personas enabled guestbook, and that is how you would integrate personas into your own app to give it avatars and custom information or anything else that we end up building into personas. And just for your information, Ceramic has a basic profile schema that is much more extensive than just a name, a bio, and an avatar. But we've built this one specifically for personas, and we intend to expand it out into the future, or expand it to include more information, as well as giving people the ability to add custom information to their personas, which will make things even more interesting. So, you know, consider how different this is compared to things are today, where every site you visit, you are basically asked to fill out your own profile or create a digital identity for that site. And all that information is stored on that company server. Instead, now you can manage all your digital identities from one location, and by changing it, it propagates the information out to every app that might be persona enabled. So this just gives you one small example of what you can do, and I'm super excited to see what else can be built with personas. So if you're interested in integrating this into your app, there's a tutorial that obviously you're looking at it that goes along with this, and you should be able to work it in. But if you need some assistance, feel free to reach out at any time, and I'd be happy to help you through it. Thanks for watching. Aaron from Vital Point AI, and turn my camera back on here. Aaron from Vital Point AI. It was fun taking you through it, and hope it wasn't too boring watching all that stuff happen on screen. Figure out a way to make these things more interesting in the future. So until next time, happy blockchaining, and talk to you later.